It's day 250 of the second Trump administration, and we've got a lot to talk about on a very busy Friday. Today, Donald Trump is openly celebrating the indictment of former FBI Director James Comey, calling him a, quote, dirty cop, and warning that more may be on the way. Meanwhile, much of the country is wondering what will actually happen with this case and who could be next on Trump's revenge tour. NBC's Laura Jarrett gets us started tonight.
Facing accusations he's carrying out a retaliation campaign after a federal grand jury indicted former FBI Director James Comey, President Trump today digging in.
It's about justice, really. It's not revenge. You can't let this go on. He's a dirty cop.
The president also suggesting the Justice Department's work may not be over when asked who's next on his list of targets for prosecution.
It's not a list, but I think there'll be others. These were corrupt, radical left Democrats. There'll be others. Look, that's my opinion.
Today, top Justice Department officials publicly defending the Comey indictment.
The FBI didn't just make up this charge. This is very serious conduct, and that's why we investigated it.
The former FBI director maintaining his innocence, now facing criminal charges notably not related to the FBI's controversial opening of an investigation into the Trump campaign's dealings with Russia ahead of the 2016 election. The issue that has long defined his fraught relationship with the president and led to his abrupt firing.
I was going to fire Comey, knowing there was no good time to do it. I said to myself, I said, this Russia thing with Trump and Russia is a made-up story.
Instead, Comey indicted on 2 counts, obstruction and lying to Congress, for allegedly authorizing a leak to the press about the Clinton Foundation years earlier. The grand jury failing to indict him on an additional charge of lying to Congress.
My family and I have known for years that there are costs to standing up to Donald Trump. We will not live on our knees, and you shouldn't either. And I'm innocent. So let's have a trial. The
indictment bare bones and soon likely tested in court. A source familiar with the grand jury proceedings telling NBC News interim U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan, Trump's one-time personal attorney, presented the Comey case herself Thursday, a rare move for a U.S. attorney, especially one with no experience as a prosecutor. But the president's own words could pose a significant obstacle to the case. His lengthy record of name-calling and accusations against Comey, now potential fodder for Comey's defense.
Make no mistake about it, this is a very big deal. And to help us understand everything that's going on, let's bring in our leadoff panel. Tyler Pager is a White House correspondent for the New York Times, and along with him is Barbara McQuade, who is a veteran federal prosecutor and former U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Michigan. And last but not least, my friend Anthony Coley, former Justice Department spokesperson under Attorney General Merrick Garland. Thank you all for being here tonight. Barb, I'm going to start with you. The glasses are coming off, lawyer to lawyer. Let's just talk about, first and foremost, how unusual it is for a U.S. attorney, in this case an interim U.S. attorney, to present this entire case by herself. This is not someone who has a ton of experience as a prosecutor. This is not someone who's done this a bunch of times. Can you explain for our audience what a significant deal this is that she presented this entire case on her own?
Yeah, it's really unheard of, Charles. I mean, the U.S. attorney is busy managing a very big office. They have people to do these things. There are line prosecutors assigned to cases who get into the weeds and present the indictments to a grand jury. It's also noteworthy that she's the only person who signed this indictment. When I served as U.S. attorney, I signed exactly 0 indictments because the line prosecutors were doing that work. What that says to me is that she couldn't get any line prosecutor to do this work themselves because they didn't want anything to do with it. They didn't want the blood on their hands or the ethical scandals that could follow them and even possibly result in bar grievances. And so here she is 4 days into her job. A week ago, she was working as a White House aide trying to remove the woke from the Smithsonian Institution. And suddenly she finds herself in a grand jury room. Somehow she managed to convince 14 of the 23 grand jurors to return an indictment on a finding of probable cause.
Now, let's stay on this notion of what's unusual. Another thing that I thought was unusual, Barb, is that we've heard quite a bit from James Comey, and it hasn't been through his lawyers, it's been through him. Do you think that that is an indication of how he takes these charges in terms of being able to defend against them? Because it's unusual that someone who's been federally indicted is going out and doing interviews on national television, but it just could be that this is his level of confidence. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it's really interesting. You know, in some ways, I feel that Jim Comey was kind of made for this moment. He is not afraid of anything really, but certainly not of the media. And to the extent this was an effort to get him to, feel humiliated or put his head down or to be silenced, he's not the kind of person who's going to do that. And I think, if anything, he is relishing this battle because he and his lawyer, Pat Fitzgerald, are both very seasoned prosecutors. They spent a lot of time in the courtroom. And in fact, Jim Comey was the U.S. attorney in the very district where he has been charged, as well as the Southern District of New York. So I think he's very comfortable in a courtroom, very comfortable with the media, and clearly very comfortable with the charges in this case. He says he's innocent, and he has a presumption to that innocence, and he seems ready to have his day in court.
Okay, Anthony, help me out here, because something feels very off, if not altogether weird. It seems like, from what we understand, that Comey has been indicted allegedly for whether he chose or told a friend to leak something about Hillary Clinton. But wasn't it Donald Trump who had the issue about what Hillary Clinton was doing? So it seems a little bit ironic, if not altogether strange, that at this point, Donald Trump has pushed for the indictment of James Comey for something that he previously seems to have heralded, if not benefited from.
And he benefited from James Comey ignoring DOJ's 60-day rule. For instance, back in October of 2016, DOJ's 60-day rule prohibits high-ranking DOJ officials from taking overt investigative steps that could possibly influence an election. It was October 28, 2016, Charles, when Jim Comey, as FBI director, he sent a letter to Congress saying that he was going to reopen the FBI's investigation of Hillary Clinton's use of an email server. That was in the height of the campaign season. It was roughly, 12, 13 days before Election Day. It was a bogus investigation. We know that because he shut it down on November 2nd. But at that time, Charles, millions of early votes had been cast. People were already voting by absentee ballot. By the time he shut down that bogus case, the damage had been done. So I want to be clear here. This is a curious case for me. On the one hand, this guy does not deserve what happened to him. It does not justify. But Charles, we are in this position right now because Jim Comey defied DOJ norms. And that's what's so troubling about this moment here. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Jim Comey.
Tyler, so we're looking at this, and right now it seems like Donald Trump is reportedly pushing his attorney general, or the attorney general, Pam Bondi, to go further and subpoena records to get the travel logs and the travel plans of Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis. Now, for those of you who don't remember, Fani Willis was the district attorney whose office had indicted Donald Trump, as well as a number of other co-conspirators around a RICO charge. What does it tell you that this is the course of action that Donald Trump seems to be allegedly pushing his attorney general under him, Pam Bondi, toward doing? And who else should be concerned at this point?
Yeah, it's not a surprise, right? This is something that Donald Trump campaigned on in 2023. He told his supporters, "I am your retribution." He has long telegraphed that he wanted to get back into the White House to be able to use the Justice Department to prosecute his own political opponents. He has at times tried to say, it's up to the Justice Department, I'm not involved, while also posting on Truth Social messages to Pam Bondi complaining that nothing has happened and wanting to move quicker. And he has also said today to the White House press corps outside the White House that there there was not a, quote, list of people he wanted the attorney general to prosecute. And also, if you look back to the message he posted on True Social over the weekend, he identified some of those very people. James Comey was on that list, as was Letitia James, the New York attorney general, as was Adam Schiff, the senator from California. But the president has made clear for years who his political opponents are, Fani Willis being one of those as well. She wasn't necessarily on that list, but it wouldn't be hard for the Justice Department to review the president's public remarks over the last half decade and get a sense of the people that he has animosity toward. And the president has made very clear that he does not see the Justice Department as independent from him. And Pam Bondi, the attorney general, has likewise made it very clear that she is in this role serving Donald Trump and his interests. And so we can expect that these sorts of prosecutions continue. Exactly who and in what order remains unclear, but the president has been very adamant in public and in private that he wants his Justice Department to continue to prosecute these cases.
You know, Tyler,
Charles, I would add here, if I may, that the key difference between Trump 1.0 and Trump 2.0, and Tyler just hit at that, is now that he has people in place at the Justice Department, like Pam Bondi, who don't care what facts are. They don't care about the rule of law, which requires prosecutors to treat like cases alike. They care about one thing, and that is appeasing Donald Trump. And that's very different from his first term, where we had people like Bill Barr who, and I have a lot of problems with Bill Barr, Charles, but when it mattered most, that Republican attorney general told Donald Trump that he was wrong about the big lie about the 2020 election. His previous attorney general, Jeff Sessions, you remember Sessions appropriately recused himself from overseeing the FBI investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election. But that mold is gone this year. That's why we're seeing all of these types of actions against Comey, against Fani Willis and Letitia James. But even though the facts don't warrant it, he's got people in place to do whatever he wants done.